A Maritime! Aye. Hoist the sail! Huzzah!
Ahoy there, ye bold seekers of the strange and unexplained. Welcome aboard the Bloody Gull, the finest vessel to ever sail the shadowed waters of the unknown. I'm Captain Jeb Blackwater, pirate, wanderer, and your guide through the murky depths where legend and truth collide.
Hoist the Jolly Roger! Batten down the hatches!
Each week we set our course for the uncharted seas of mystery, where ghost ships drift, ancient curses linger, and secrets older than the ocean itself await discovery. From tales of the deep to whispers of forgotten worlds, there's no riddle too dark or storm too fierce for this crew.
Hooray! Shiver me timber! Full ahead!
So tighten your lines, ready your hearts, and keep your wits sharp, 'cause the sea's got its secrets, and she won't give 'em up without a fight. Now, let's weigh anchor and dive into the unknown. Gather round, ye scurvy dogs.
Captain Jeb bellowed, slamming his tanker on the table.
Time for a tale so wild it'll have your timbers shivering and your breeches quivering. And not just from last night's rum.
The crew leaned in, the flickering lanterns casting long, ghostly shadows across the galley. Jeb's good eye glinted mischievously, while the other, his famed glass eye, seemed to stare straight through them all.
It was a night darker than Davy Jones' sock drawer,
Jeb began.
The moon hid behind clouds like a debtor avoiding me after losing a game of dice. We were sailing the Bloody Gull through the Straits of Sorrow, aptly named, I'd say, as they bring more grief than a mother-in-law's visit.
The crew chuckled nervously, but Jeb raised a hand to quiet them.
The wind was still, the sea like glass, and the only sound was our creaky hull. Then all of a sudden, our lookout, young Billy, bless his one good tooth, screamed like he'd seen a mermaid with seaweed in her teeth.
What did you see, Captain? Piped up a deckhand. Jeb's voice dropped to a low growl.
A fleet of ghost ships, lad. 10 of 'em. Their sails tattered as an old wench's petticoats, glowing green like they'd been dipped in the devil's own stew. They sailed through the mist as silent as a thief in the night.
The crew gasped.
Aye, we were frozen in our boots.
Jeb continued.
But not old Jeb. I hollered to the crew. Man the cannons. If they be ghosts, we'll give 'em a proper welcome to the afterlife.
He chuckled a deep, gravely laugh.
Fire!
Turns out ye can't sink a ghost ship. We fired a broadside and our cannonballs went straight through 'em, hitting nothing but the fog.
What happened then, Captain?
They closed in, surrounding us like sharks at a fish fry. That's when their captain appeared, if you can call him that. He was floating midair, a skeleton wrapped in chains, with eyes burning like coals from the fires of hell. You've trespassed on cursed waters, he roared, his voice sounding like a thunderstorm caught in a barrel.
Did you parley with him, Captain?
Parley? Ha! I don't parley with the skeleton. I told him, listen here, ye bony barnacle. I've got a crew with nothing to lose and a cannonball with your name on it.
Jeb paused dramatically.
And that's when he laughed. A cold, eerie laugh that made me glad I'd already relieved myself before coming topside.
The crew laughed, but their eyes were wide. What happened next?
Well, I had a brilliant idea,
Jeb said, tapping his temple.
I ordered the crew to light the barrels of whale oil we had in the hold and toss them overboard. The sea erupted into flames and the ghost ship scattered like gulls from a cannon shot. But the captain of that ghost fleet, he pointed at me with a bony finger and he said, "This ain't over, Jebediah Blackwater. You'll see me again."
And did ye, Captain? Jeb leaned in close, his voice dropping to a whisper.
Every now and then, when the mist rolls in and the sea goes quiet, I hear his laugh, carried on the wind. So if ye ever see a ghost ship, lads, remember this. Always carry whale oil and never play dice with the undead.
The crew burst into nervous laughter, raising their mugs. But as the night wore on and the lanterns burned low, more than a few eyes kept glancing toward the misty horizon, watching for a green glow in the dark.
Ahoy there, me hearties, gather close, for ye've found your way to Seas of Mystery, the only show where the lanterns burn low, the tales grow taller, and the sea's darkest secrets rise to the surface. I be your guide, Captain Jeb, master of the spectral seas, and tonight we set sail into a realm where fact and legend blur like fog on the horizon. Tonight, me brave crew, we dare to venture where few have gone before, to the domain of phantom fleets and ghost ships. These be no ordinary vessels, mind ye. These are the ships that haunt the open waters, crewed by souls long lost to Davy Jones' locker. We're talking the kind of stories that make even the saltiest of sailors grip their rosaries tight. Ye've heard the whispers of the Mary Celeste abandoned yet untouched, her crew vanished into the void. And who could forget the Flying Dutchman, doomed to sail the seas forever, a harbinger of doom to those unlucky enough to catch a glimpse of her ghostly sails? These aren't just stories, mates. These are warnings, etched into the waves and passed down through generations of seafarers who've seen the unseeable. So stow your gear, strap yourselves to the mast if ye must, and pour yourselves a mug of salty Pete's finest. Tonight we embark on a voyage into the spectral seas. Not only will we delve into infamous maritime mysteries, but we'll also share haunted accounts from listeners like ye, brave souls who've peered into the abyss and lived to tell the tale. But don't ye be thinking we're done there. We'll unravel legends that outlasted the men who first spun 'em, cursed waters that sailors shun, and tales of ghostly crews still toiling on decks long sunk beneath the waves. But before we hoist the sails and set our course for the unknown, a quick word from one of our trusted sponsors. After all, even ghost ships need a bit of gold in their coffers. Do you find yourself parched after a long day of plundering the seven seas? Then look no further than Salty Pete's Pirate Ale. Crafted with seawater and just a pinch of gold dust, it's the drink of choice for swashbucklers everywhere. Salty Pete's Pirate Ale, because life's too short for bad grog. Drink responsibly. Now, mates, ye may have heard the story of the Mary Celeste, but let me paint ye a picture fit for the dark corners of your mind. The year were 1872, and Captain Benjamin Briggs set sail from New York City, bound for Genoa, Italy, with his wife, young daughter, and 7 crewmen. Her cargo? Denatured alcohol, the kind that burns fierce and clean. A month later, the De Gracia, another merchant ship, spotted the Mary Celeste adrift. Her sails were set, her cargo intact, and her provisions untouched. Enough food and drink for 6 months. But her lifeboat was gone, and so was every soul aboard. The ship's log held no clues, the last entry being recorded 9 days prior. What could have driven a seasoned captain and his crew to abandon ship in the middle of the Atlantic? Some say foul play, though no signs of violence were ever found. Others reckon it were madness, vapors from the alcohol causing hallucinations. Or was it something more sinister, like a sea serpent dragging the crew to their doom? I'd wager you've got your own theories. But the story don't end there. Sailors say the Mary Celeste herself be cursed, doomed to bring misfortune to all who sail her. After she were salvaged, she met with mishap after mishap, until her final voyage in 1885, when she were intentionally wrecked on a reef in Haiti. Yet even in death, her ghostly legend sails on. What say ye, me hearties? Curse, madness, or something the sea keeps secret?
What shall we do with Captain Jeb's crew? Shall we do with Captain Jeb's crew? What shall we do with Captain Jeb's crew? The rum runs dry in the morning. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises early in the morning. Send him to swab the ghostly galleon. Send him to swab the ghostly galleon. Send him to swab the ghostly galley till the spirits stop their mourning. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises early in the morning. Tie him to the mast when the kraken's thrashing. Tie him to the mast when the kraken's thrashing. Tie him to the mast when the kraken's thrashing, and hope they don't go swimming. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises early in the morning. Feed him to the gulls if they steal my treasure. Feed him to the gulls if they steal my treasure. Feed him to the gulls if they steal my treasure, and I'll be laughing, roaring. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises early in the morning. But if they fight, I'll share me plunder. If they fight, I'll share me plunder. If they fight, I'll share me plunder with grog and gold adorning. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises early in the morning. So raise your cups to Captain Jeb's crew. Raise your cups to Captain Jeb's crew. Raise your cups to Captain Jeb's crew and sing this song till morning. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises early in the morning.
And now it's your turn to take the helm, me mates. Let's hear your tales of ghost ships, spectral sightings, and the unexplainable mysteries of the deep. We've got our first caller on the line. Who's brave enough to speak with old Captain Jeb tonight?
Hi, Captain Jeb. This is Randy from Florida. I think I saw a ghost ship once. It was glowing in the distance while I was out night fishing.
A glowing ship, ye say? Did it make any sound, or were ye too busy baiting your hook to notice?
Actually, it was totally silent, but I swear I saw shadowy figures on the deck. Then it just vanished.
Vanished, ye say? Hey, that sounds like the Flying Dutchman to me. Beware, Randy. Next time it might not just vanish. It might come for ye. We're joined now by Professor Reginald Smythe, a so-called expert in maritime history. Professor, tell the crew about your thoughts on ghost ships.
Oh, I thank you, Captain Jeb. The phenomenon of ghost ships often has rational explanations, such as optical illusions or abandoned vessels carried by currents. However, I must admit, there are cases like the Mary Celeste that defy logic.
Defy logic, ye say? Or perhaps your landlubber brain can't comprehend the supernatural?
A predictable retort, Captain. But allow me to clarify. While I remain a man of science, I also acknowledge the allure of the unknown. The Mary Celeste, for instance, was found eerily intact, her cargo untouched, and her crew vanished without a trace. It's a puzzle even I find fascinating.
Fascinating, eh? Sounds like a scholar's way of saying I ain't got a clue. But tell me this, Professor. What of the Flying Dutchman? A cursed ship doomed to sail forever, its captain bound by a deal with the devil himself.
Ah, the Flying Dutchman. A fine piece of nautical folklore. Most accounts describe it as a mirage caused by light refracting over the ocean. Yet, I must admit, the sheer consistency of its sightings does make one wonder.
Wonder if he might be wrong, hey? Go on, Professor. Admit it. The sea holds mysteries your books can't explain.
Captain, the sea does indeed hold mysteries, but unlike you, I prefer to investigate them with a clear mind rather than leap to tales of devilish bargains and spectral crews.
Clear mind? Ha ha! A clear mind's just an empty canvas for a ghost paintbrush. Did I ever tell ye of the Black Horizon? A ship that vanished in a storm, only to reappear decades later with not a soul aboard, except the skeleton of her captain still clutching the wheel?
An intriguing story, Captain, but are you certain it wasn't the product of an overzealous tavern bard after too much rum?
Too much rum? Ye wound me, Smythe. But I'll have ye know, the Black Horizon's tale comes straight from me own grandfather. He swore he saw her drift into port, the captain's hollow eyes watching from the deck.
And did your grandfather provide this account before or after his own encounters with rum? I simply must know.
Ye've got a sharp tongue, Professor, but mark me words, the sea'll show ye something one day that'll freeze the smug smile off your face.
I'll consider myself warned, Captain, and who knows? Perhaps one day I'll join you on one of these haunted voyages. Strictly for academic purposes, of course.
Academic, eh? We'll see how long your academics last when the sea starts singing her eerie tunes. But I'll take ye aboard, Smythe. Just make sure you bring a fresh pair of breeches. Who's next to call into the captain's quarters tonight?
Hi, Captain Jeb. My name's Sarah, and I'm calling from Nova Scotia. My grandfather was a fisherman, and he always told us about seeing a ship with torn sails glowing faintly in the distance. He said it wasn't of this world, and whenever it appeared, there'd be a terrible storm within the hour.
Aye, Sarah, your grandfather may have had the misfortune of crossing paths with the Flying Dutchman. That ship be known for heralding disaster. She appears as a warning, a spectre of ill fate. Did your grandfather ever share how he felt when he saw her?
He said he felt cold, even though it was summer. And the next morning, he found 2 of his lobster traps completely smashed, even though the sea had calmed.
A chill in summer, traps smashed in calm seas. Aye, the sea was giving him a warning. Ye'd do well to heed it too, Sarah. Thanks for sharing your tale. Let's take another call. Who'll be next to spin a yarn?
Hey, Jeb, this is Dave from California. I don't know if this counts, but once I was out on a night dive, and I swear I heard singing underwater. It wasn't like whales or dolphins. It sounded like human voices, but I was over 50 miles from shore.
Singing, ye say? Hey, Dave, that sounds like the call of the sirens luring sailors to their doom. Did ye follow the sound, or were ye wise enough to turn back?
Oh, I didn't stick around. I got back to the surface as fast as I could. My dive buddy said I was pale as a ghost.
Smart lad, Dave. The sea she sings, but her songs aren't always meant for mortal ears. Thanks for sharing your experience. You might have just saved a life tonight. Mates, we've got a treat tonight. A call from Dr. William Fenwick, a maritime historian and expert on ghost ships. Welcome aboard, Doctor.
Oh, why, thank you, Captain Jeb. I've spent over 3 decades studying maritime law, and I can say with confidence that ghost ships like the Flying Dutchman have roots in very real nautical fears. storms, shipwrecks, and isolation.
Aye, but tell me this, do ye believe the Dutchman be more than a tale? Is there truth to the spectre that's said to sail the seven seas?
Well, there are enough sightings across centuries to suggest something is happening. Whether it's a trick of the light, a mirage caused by temperature inversions, or something truly supernatural, the Flying Dutchman persists in human consciousness for a reason.
Fascinating. Tell me, Doctor, what do ye do if ye found yourself facing the Dutchman?
Personally, I'd make my peace and pray to Neptune.
Wise words, Doctor. Thanks for joining us tonight. Need protection for your ship and crew? Look no further than Davy Jones Insurance Co. We cover it all: shipwrecks, mutinies, and hauntings. Don't let bad luck sink your ship. Call Davy Jones Insurance Co. today. Next, I'll be reading tales sent in by ye, the brave listeners. This first spine tingler comes from Mary, writing to us all the way from the rugged coast of Maine. Gather close, mates, and let the tale unfold. Mary writes, my father has been a fisherman his whole life, braving the icy waters off the Maine coast. He's never been one to tell tall tales, always a practical man. But one night, while returning to port, he saw something he couldn't explain. A strange light appeared on the water. It wasn't the steady beam of a lighthouse or the flicker of a lantern. It danced, Captain Jeb, like a will-o'-the-wisp, pale and flickering. At first he thought it might be another vessel, but the light moved too fast, darting across the waves as if it were alive. Alive, ye say? A light with a mind of its own? Perhaps guiding, perhaps luring, who's to say? Mary continues. The light followed him for miles, staying just ahead of his boat. When he tried to turn away, it would reappear in front, leading him further out to sea. The crew, tough men hardened by years on the water, began to whisper of spirits. Finally, the light came to rest over a jagged outcrop. My father's boat slowed, and the crew peered into the depths. That's when they saw it, a wrecked ship, long forgotten, its wooden hull rotten beneath the waves. A wrecked ship, eh? The graveyard of the sea revealing itself at last. But why, Mary? Why that night? And why your father's boat? Curiosity got the better of them. They marked the location and later reported it to the harbor master. A dive team confirmed it. The wreck was centuries old, likely the victim of a violent storm. No records of the ship exist, nor any tales of its crew. And yet my father swears the light was no accident. It led him there, Captain Jeb, almost as if the spirits of that sunken vessel wanted to be found. Spirits wanting to be found, or something more sinister, lass? Could be they were summoning your father to join them in the briny deep. The sea holds her secrets tight, but every now and then she lets a few slip through her fingers. What say ye, listeners? A helpful haunt or a trap left unfinished? Thank ye, Mary, for sharing your tale. I'll be thinking twice next time I see lights dancing on the waves. And for the rest of ye out there, keep sending in your stories. You never know what mysteries we'll uncover together. Now hold tight, mates, 'cause we've got another tale coming up after this short break. Don't drift away. Do you find yourself parched after a long day of plundering the seven seas? Then look no further than Salty Pete's Pirate Ale. Crafted with seawater and just a pinch of gold dust, it's the drink of choice for swashbucklers everywhere. Salty Pete's Pirate Ale, because life's too short for bad grog. Drink responsibly. All right, mates, our next tale comes from a listener who's sharing a family story that'll make the hairs on your neck stand at attention. This one's called The Singing Sailor, and it comes from a lad named Thomas down on the Carolina coast. Let's dive in. Thomas writes, Captain Jeb, My family has owned a beach house on a quiet stretch of the Carolina shoreline for generations. It's a peaceful place most of the time, but during storms, when the wind howls and the waves crash against the shore, we've heard something unusual. A voice, faint at first, carrying over the storm. It's a man's voice, singing sea shanties. Singing sea shanties, eh? Now, I'm not one to balk at a good tune, but in the midst of a storm, that's when ye know something's not quite right. The first time we heard it, we thought it must be a fisherman caught out on the water. But when my father went outside to look, there was no one there, only the storm raging and the waves crashing. Yet the singing continued, growing louder, the words clearer. A lone voice in the tempest cutting through the chaos. Sounds like a ghostly serenade, Thomas. The words were old, Captain Jeb, lyrics none of us had ever heard before. Songs about ships lost to the deep and sailors yearning for home. My grandmother swears it's the ghost of a sailor who drowned just offshore many years ago. She says his spirit wanders the beach during storms, singing his sorrows into the wind. A sailor lost to the waves trying to find his way home. There's a sadness to it, ain't there? But also a warning. As if he's reminding us that the sea always collects her debts. One night during a particularly fierce storm, my uncle stayed awake to see if he could catch a glimpse of the singer. He swears he saw a figure standing on the dunes, dressed in tattered oilskins, his face hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat. The man turned toward the house, tipped his hat, and then vanished into the storm. Tipped his hat, ye say? A ghost with manners, eh? But mark me words, Thomas. Just because he's polite doesn't mean he's harmless. Spirits of the sea often have unfinished business, and it's best not to meddle in their affairs. To this day, we still hear him during storms. My grandmother says it's a blessing that the singing sailor watches over us. But me, I'm not so sure. There's something eerie about that voice, a sadness that chills ye to the bone. A blessing or a curse? That's for you to decide, mates. But one thing's for sure. Next time I'm caught in a storm, I'll be listening closely to the wind. If I hear a shanty, I'll be sure to tip me own hat and then run the other way. Thank ye, Thomas, for sharing that tale. And for the rest of you out there, if you've got a story of spectral sailors or eerie encounters, send them in. You just might hear it on the airwaves of Seas of Mystery. Stay tuned. More ghostly tales coming up after this short break.
Oh, Captain Jeb, a legend bold with a ghostly crew and a heart of gold. A cursed ship on a spectral tide, through storm and fire he takes his stride. With his saber high and his laugh so loud, he strikes the fear in the devil's crowd. A quaking rose, but it met its match. Jeb's cannon roared, left it naught but scratch. Oh, Captain Jeb on the spectral sea, fighting monsters wild and free. The Navy's chasing, they'll never win. With a wink and a laugh he sails again. The ghost pirates came in the dead of night, their eyes ablaze with spectral light. Join our crew or we'll seal your fate. But Jeb cried back, I'll dictate my slate. Through the clashing swords and the cannon's roar, he sent their captain to the ocean floor. Now they whisper low of the man they dread, for he beats the dead and he took their bread. Oh, Captain Jeb on the spectral sea, fighting monsters wild and free. The Navy's chasing, they'll never win. With a wink and a laugh he sails again. Dublin shores to Havana's bay. He outruns fleets in the light of day. With a ghostly gust his sails unfurled, a shadow's terror, the bane of the world. With a swashbuckling grin and his trusty flask, no quest too wild, no treasure too vast. He frees the poor and he feeds the weak, a spectral hero, the rogue unique. Oh, Captain Jeb on the spectral sea, fighting monsters wild and free. The navy's chasing, they'll never win. With a wink and a laugh he sails again. So raise your glass to the spectral king, to ghostly battles and the songs we sing. For Captain Jeb his legend will grow, a pirate's heart where the wild winds blow.
All right, mates, here's a tale from Kevin, writing to us from the storied shores of Boston. He's got a yarn to spin about an encounter on the high seas, one that'll leave ye questioning what's real and what's something else entirely. Let's hear what Kevin has to say. Kevin writes, last summer I was taking a ferry from the mainland to Nantucket. It was a warm, clear evening, the kind where the sea looks like glass and the horizon stretches forever. As we cruised along, I was standing at the rail, enjoying the view, when I spotted something strange out in the distance. A ship, Captain Jeb, but not like any I'd seen before. A strange ship, eh? Let me guess. It weren't no shiny new yacht or cargo hauler, was it? The ship looked ancient, like something out of a history book. Its sails were tattered, flapping weakly in the breeze, though there wasn't much wind that night. The hull was dark, worn like it had been afloat for centuries. And the strangest part, there were no lights, not a single lantern or cabin glow, just a shadowy silhouette against the dusk. No lights, torn sails, and an air of mystery? Sounds like he crossed paths with a ship that don't belong to this world, Kevin. I thought maybe it was just a trick of the eye, so I looked again, squinting against the dim light. But it was still there, steady as the stars. I decided to ask one of the crew about it. When I pointed it out, they frowned and checked the radar. There's nothing out there, they said. You must be imagining things. Imagining things, they say? Bah! That's what the landlubbers always claim. But we who know the sea, her whispers, her secrets, we know better, don't we, Kevin? A ship that don't show on radar? That be a bad omen, lad, mark me words. I went back to the railing, determined to keep watch. The ship was still there, just on the edge of visibility. I stared at it for what felt like hours, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. But then, it happened. One moment it was there, a ghostly specter on the water, and the next, it vanished. No splash, no sound, just gone. The sea chooses her mysteries carefully, lad. Ye didn't imagine it. She wanted ye to see it. Why, we may never know, but what ye saw, Kevin, was a glimpse into something older and deeper than any ferry crew could comprehend. Could it have been a phantom ship? One lost to the waves, but not to time? Or maybe a cursed vessel sailing forever in search of something it'll never find? Whatever the case, Kevin, the sea gave ye a story most men wouldn't believe. And maybe that's for the best. Thank ye, Kevin, for sending us this tale. And for the rest of ye listeners, take heed. If you ever see a ship that don't belong, one that don't register on the tools of man, keep your wits about ye. The sea's mysteries are vast, and not all of them are kind. Stay tuned, mates. We've got more spectral tales and nautical nightmares coming up after this short break. Don't drift away. Need protection for your ship and crew? Look no further than Davy Jones Insurance Co. We cover it all: shipwrecks, mutinies, and hauntings. Don't let bad luck sink your ship. Call Davy Jones Insurance Co. today. Do you find yourself parched after a long day of plundering the seven seas? Then look no further than Salty Pete's Pirate Ale. Crafted with seawater and just a pinch of gold dust, it's the drink of choice for swashbucklers everywhere. Salty Pete's Pirate Ale, because life's too short for bad grog. Drink responsibly.
The crew of the Bloody Gold gathered close round the captain, the warm glow of the lanterns flickering in the dark night. The sea was calm, and the only sound was the rhythmic lapping of water against the hull. Jebediah Blackwater leaned forward in his chair, his good eye glinting in the lamplight, his voice rough as sandpaper, carried the weight of an untold tale.
You lot think ye've seen death,
He began, his tone low and deliberate.
but ye don't know death till you've stared it in the eye, and I mean proper death, not the kind we bring with steel and shot. I'm talking about the kind that don't bleed, the kind that don't fall, no matter how hard ye strike.
The men exchanged uneasy glances, their captain's words cutting through their usual bravado. Jebediah took a deep swig of rum and slammed the tankard down on the table.
Aye, let me tell ye of the night I died.
The crew leaned in as the captain's voice dropped, drawing them into his tale.
It was years ago,
Jeb began.
on a night much like this. The sea was calm, the sky black as a widow's veil. We were sailing east, fat with the spoils of a Spanish galleon. The Bloody Gull had never seen a finer haul. Gold, jewels, silks, it was enough to make a king weep. But then, the fog rolled in.
He paused, letting the words hang heavy in the air.
Thick as soup it was, swirling up out of nowhere. The crew got jittery, whispering about curses and bad omens. I told them to shut their traps and keep their hands busy. But even I felt it. Something cold in the air, like the sea itself had turned its gaze on us.
He sat back, his eyes narrowing as he stared into the memory.
Then came the sound. Low at first, like a groan from the depths. It built louder and louder, till it was all we could hear. A wall that made your guts twist. And out of that cursed fog, they came.
The crew shuffled closer, their eyes wide.
Those ships.
Jeb said, his voice barely above a whisper.
A whole fleet of them. Their sails were tatters, glowing like moonlight on a corpse. Their decks crawled with shadows, and their eyes burned like hellfire. They were the damned lads, and they'd come for us.
The crew hung on his every word, the eerie quiet of the ship amplifying the tension.
I didn't flinch,
Jeb said, his tone firm.
I ordered the cannons primed, the guns loaded. I figured steel would do the job, ghost or not, but when we fired, the balls went straight through 'em, like shooting at smoke. And then they fired back.
He leaned forward, his voice dropping again.
But not with cannons. No, they lashed us with chains made of shadow, hooked onto the gull and dragged us into their fold. The men fought like devils, but their blades passed clean through the ghosts. One by one, my crew fell, dragged overboard or cut down by swords that left no wound but stole the very life from their eyes.
The lanterns flickered, and the men huddled closer.
But I wasn't going down without a fight. I grabbed my cutlass and leapt onto the deck of the lead ship. The crew was dead and rotten, their flesh hanging in shreds, but they fought like men possessed. I carved my way through 'em, my blade burning with the fire of my rage, and then I saw him.
Jeb's voice hardened.
There, Captain. A towering wraith in a coat as black as the abyss. His eyes burned redder than the rest, and his voice, cut through me like ice.
What did he say, Captain? The young deckhand asked, his voice trembling. Jeb leaned in close, his voice a gravely growl.
He said, "Jebediah Blackwater, your time has come."
The crew gasped, and Jeb sat back with a grim smile.
So I told him, "You'll not take me without a fight," and I didn't. I fought till my arms were lead, till my lungs burned with every breath, but in the end he bested me. They chained me to the mast, and I watched as the bloody gull went down in flames. I drowned that night, lads. The cold took me, and I sank into the abyss.
The men stared in silence, their faces pale.
But you're here,
Amos finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. Jeb smiled, slow and cold.
I'm here, but not the same. That night I made a bargain. My soul for the gull and my crew's freedom. The sea let me live, if you can call this living, but it claimed its price.
He stood, his shadow stretching long across the deck.
So remember this, lads. Death is always watching, and one day it'll come for you. Pray ye face it with steel in hand and fire in your heart. And if you see the fog, steer clear, or you'll join the damned fleet and me.
The crew sat in stunned silence as Jebediah Blackwater turned away, his boots thudding on the deck, his shadow fading into the night.
Oh, the fog rolled in on a moonless tide, and the bloody gull sailed on. With a chest of gold and our heads held high, we thought the danger gone. But the sea was still and the air grew cold. The crew felt something near. Then the wail of the damned, it froze our souls and filled our hearts with fear. Oh, roll, lads, roll through the shadow and the fire. Fight for your lives, for the sea's desire. With the ghostly fleet and a captain's roar, we'll sail to hell and back once more. From the cursed fog came the ships of the dead, and their sails were torn and gray. With their ghostly crew and their eyes blood red, they were hunting us as prey. They lashed their chains to our sturdy mast and pulled us in their hold. Our cannons roared, but the balls flew past through shadows dark and cold. Oh, row, lads, row through the shadow and the fire. Fight for your lives, for the sea's desire. With the ghostly fleet and a captain's roar, we'll sail to hell and back once more. Then their captain came with his tricorn black and his eyes like burning flame. He said, "Blackwater, your time has passed," but I fought him just the same. Oh, his blade was sharp and his chains were tight, but I never dropped my steel. Though I sank below on that fateful night, I made the devil feel. Oh, row, lads, row through the shadow and the fire. Fight for your lives, for the sea's desire. With the ghostly fleet and a captain's roar, we'll sail to hell and back once more. Gull sails the endless black, where the dead and damned and bide. So beware the fog and don't look back, or you'll join us on this ride. Oh, row, lads, row through the shadow and the fire. Fight for your lives, for the sea's desire. With the ghostly fleet and a captain's roar, we'll sail to hell and back once more. Oh, row, lads, row through the shadow and the fire. Fight for your lives, for the sea's desire. With a ghostly fleet and a captain's roar, we'll sail to hell and back once more. Oh, row, lads, row through the shadow and the fire. Fight for your lives, for the sea's desire. With a ghostly fleet and a captain's roar, we'll sail to hell and back once more. We'll sail to hell and back once more.
Ahoy, mates! Tonight we've sailed deep into the spectral seas, navigating tales that chill the spine and stir the imagination. We've uncovered the mysteries of the Mary Celeste, pondered the eternal plight of the Flying Dutchman, and shared haunting encounters from our own listeners. Each story reminds us of the sea's infinite depths, both of water and of wonder. Whether it be ghostly lights guiding fishermen to forgotten wrecks, a spectral sailor serenading the storm, or ancient ships that appear only to vanish without a trace, the sea holds her secrets tight. And perhaps it's best that way. After all, what fun would the journey be if we had all the answers? But our voyage doesn't end here, mates. Next time on Seas of Mystery, we'll dive into the lure of cursed treasures, the glimmering gold and ancient artifacts that carry with them the weight of tragedy and vengeance. From pirates' plunder to ancient relics, we'll explore the hauntings and horrors that await those bold or foolish enough to claim them. Mark your calendars, ye brave souls, for we'll uncover tales of treasure that glows in the moonlight, and the spirits that guard it, seeking revenge on those who dare disturb their eternal rest. If you've got a tale of your own, send it to us. Perhaps we'll read it on the air, if ye dare share it. Until then, mates, keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears tuned to the whispers of the waves, and your heart firmly anchored in the mysteries that surround us. Life's a grand adventure, and it's made all the better with a touch of the unknown. This be Captain Jeb signing off from Seas of Mystery. May the wind be at your back, the stars guide your way, and the sea's secrets keep ye company till we meet again. Farewell, me hearties.